Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. Today is our 21st podcast, and unfortunately we're still locked in our homes, still under quarantine. Who knew after all this many weeks that we'll still be stuck at home and away from each other? But let me introduce my partner, Big Meat.
What's up, Azar? This is it's been a long time coming. This is a long time since we've had a podcast, and all of our buddies have been teasing us like, hey, when is the next podcast? When is it? They've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And of course, we do a podcast that's over an hour long, and it's like, it's too long. You need to shorten it.
Well, it's crazy is that I don't think they appreciate it's tough to do content when you can't do anything. We're stuck at home.
That's true.
You can only go to the liquor store. You keep buying booze and different things. You can't go to any restaurants. So you're basically just cooking at home. I mean, there's nothing to really brag about to say, hey, why don't you go here or there? So, and the entertainment from sports has been brutal. There's nothing except for this past weekend. It's just starting to see some life of some type of sporting activities. Yeah. But it's just been so quiet. It's been tough. It's a little bit of fantasy news here and there, at least from football. At least thank goodness for that. But other than that, it's been pretty brutal. Pretty brutal.
Yeah,
we're surviving.
A lot of reruns of sports games from the last 30 years.
Yeah. God, who has time for that? So, and just like you, I've been starting to do like home projects out of pure boredom. And then once you open up a project, you open up a can of worms. That's an absolute nightmare.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, oh, I painted that room. So now I got to paint this other room because the other room looks like crap compared to the room I just painted. So
I've done more in the last 2 months in terms of projects around the house. A lot of yard work things. I was just actually, one thing I don't recommend, don't ever, if you ever decide to you want to get a dethatcher and you want to dethatch your lawn, strongly recommend you don't do it. Do not do it. If you want to get the machine, get the little the motor, and you get through there, and it's the machine just does it for you, that's fine. But if you get an actual the manual tool and do it yourself, strongly don't recommend it.
Well, I can definitely tell you that a relative of mine, one of my brothers, decided to put a thatcher on the back of his tractor without really knowing how to use it properly, and he ripped out his entire lawn this past spring. So he calls me up. And sent me he's asking me my advice on it, and then he sent me a picture, and he literally ripped up his entire front lawn. So,
well, that's a nice way to
use some caution.
Well, that's a nice quick way to just reseed and just start from scratch, get a nice brand new lawn up if that's what you want.
Yeah, everybody should start their lawn at the first day of the heat wave. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a complete disaster. So anyways, we have our third man in. We're going to call him the producer, the man that likes to cross all his T's and dot his I's. Let's welcome our pal Jarvis. How's it going, Jarvis?
I am just fantastic. Quarantine couldn't be treating me any better.
You're getting it the worst in Middle Earth. I mean, I actually feel bad that have you actually been able to walk out of your house? You look pale at this point. Have you seen
pale.
The sun?
So I Google it every day just so I don't forget what it looks like.
So you can remember what the sun looks like?
Yeah, because Middle Earth doesn't get the same sun that regular Earth gets. So, it's not it's just very wild out here. Sometimes the sun comes up, sometimes we're darkness for 3-4 days. And, I don't know, it's like Game of Thrones going on out here. I got dragons flying over the house. It's crazy. You never know what you're going to get out here.
Well, clearly you're doing some type of drugs out there if you're starting to see dragons and all that kind of stuff. So Middle Earth is really consuming you. But I understand.
I'll tell you the truth.
How would he know what if it's like Game of Thrones? He never watched it.
That is an odd reference to talk about dragons and stuff and the guy for a guy. But you know what's even funnier, Jarvis, is I can't understand. You're in Middle Earth and somehow you have better internet than Big Meat. How is that possible?
I need to move out there, Jarvis. That's what I need to do. As long as I get better internet, I don't care.
It's like the lawless Wild West out here. We get tumbleweeds that blow down the street. And I mean, it's just kind of whatever goes, except smuggle in the internet from Lowell. Not your internet, but like my internet. I moved the Comcast. Comcast came right out here to Middle Earth. They brought flak jackets and anti-aircraft guns and shot down any dragons that tried to pillage them on the way in and set up my internet. It was fantastic.
Talking about dragons. What the hell's the matter with this guy? Talking about dragon.
The second week of quarantine, I thought I was Batman and I was running around like a vigilante.
So,
as long as there's no White Walkers walking around there trying to kill you, Jarvis. He has no idea what we're talking about. We mentioned White Walkers. He's like, what?
Sounds like
Johnny Walker. Booze? Is that
Johnny Walker White? That we have out here.
Yeah. Well, that's because no one with their right mind would move to Middle Earth where there's nothing out there.
Obama's network of free shit did not make its way out here.
No, not yet.
Nope, it's all stuck in John's shitty internet.
You get trash pickup?
That's funny you should ask. We do have trash pickup. Unlike
he's eating while he's podcasting. Luckily for Zoom, I get to watch him chew while he's podcasting.
Unlike the sophisticated.
How freaking professional are you? What a hack job.
Okay, we want to know what you're eating. What is that? What did you just stick in your mouth? What is that? A banana? I needed more hallucinogens to see more dragons.
He's doing mushrooms now.
That's right.
Middle Earth mushrooms.
They grow right outside.
So between your chewing and John's crackling in and out with his shitty internet, this podcast is starting off perfectly.
I'm having a blast. I don't know about anybody else. What else does anybody else want to do except listen to John laugh, me chew, and you complain? This is what we're in business for.
I'm ready to throw the towel in it.
God, I miss doing this in person.
Yeah. Well, in person, I understand. But I'm just watching him in Zoom with it right to his face. He's putting his meat paws into his face.
I think he finished a statement, and then he thought he was good. And then I asked him a question, and he was like, "Oh shit, I got a mouthful of food in my mouth. I gotta answer big meat here."
All right. Next time we pick a time that Jarvis will at least have dinner before he starts the podcast.
Yeah, it is grazing time.
All right. Well, anyways, let's get into so we're all stuck in quarantine. Well, obviously, Jarvis is in Middle Earth doing shrooms or something out there, or crystal meth at this point. But so, why don't we start with you, John? What's been keeping you surviving this quarantine? What cocktails have helped you these past few weeks?
Yeah. Let's get into it. Yeah. So real quick, we've been doing a lot of flavored whiskeys over so many podcasts here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't reference my one drink that I actually enjoy drinking the most. And it's a drink on most not high-end restaurants, but the higher-end restaurants, it's on their menu. And that is just the traditional Manhattan. It's a nice just whiskey mixed with a little sweet vermouth together with a couple of bitters, a splash of bitters. And it's the perfect drink. Now, I have it with rye whiskey. I prefer Bullet Rye, but I'm just going with traditional Jack Daniel's tonight. You can actually mix it with anything, any kind of whiskey, but rye whiskey is the traditional choice. And I go with Martini and Rossi sweet vermouth, and with a splash of the Angostura bitters. It's delicious. I mean, I love whiskey, just straight whiskey on the rocks. But when you're making a Manhattan, you get that little sweetness to it too. It's a little bit of it's kind of like a flavored drink, but it's hard alcohol. It's not, you're not putting some.
You don't put a cherry in it?
In there. You could garnish it with a cherry, but you need a real cherry. You need the real maraschino cherry, not those sugar cherries that you get at the supermarket, which I've done before.
Aren't they maraschino cherries?
Opposite. I think you need the sugary maraschino cherry.
Yeah, you got to use the maraschino cherry. What are you talking about?
You can't put a black cherry.
No, like a real maraschino cherry, not the sugary cherries that you get. Is there a difference?
No, those are the same things.
The same thing. So let's address two things. First of all, you don't know what cherry you're putting in your drink, so that you're off there. But number two, every restaurant, like Applebee's, 99's, puts a freaking Manhattan on their drink menu. So when you talk about high-end dining, are you talking about like when you go to the night?
No, like you go to a nice Burton's.
The
right?
only thing that changes.
You go to a Burton Steakhouse. They have like a good Manhattan there. If you go to the 99s, I don't think the 99 has their. I don't think they have a Manhattan. I mean, you can ask them and they can make you a Manhattan, but it's not like a specialty drink that they have on their menu,
I
right?
have a question for you.
It's the whiskey that they use. The higher-end restaurants use the high-end whiskeys. That's the difference. It's not.
Is it true that you put dry vermouth in your Manhattan?
You know what? Yes, I did
Explain.
do that, and it was gross. Well, it wasn't bad. It wasn't something that I would prefer, but I've done it. I've done it because I didn't have any sweet vermouth, so I had to go put the dry vermouth in there. Yes, that is true. That's a true story.
Why don't you just go straight whiskey instead?
Would you compare that to like a heroin addict, like trying to melt heroin out of an old used needle, just to say it's close enough to the real thing? I got to have it. Like that sounds desperate and sad to me.
Yeah,
dry vermouth.
I'm kind
for a vodka martini.
I'm a sad kind of guy.
A sweet vermouth. Bah. Not even. Bah.
All right. Well, so which
I still drink
whiskey
it,
do you use, John?
I go just Jack Daniels. That's
Sorry.
what that's
Your Obama net is kicking in.
Oh God. Can you hear me?
He meant to say a nice bullet rye or something, on the nicer end of.
I would prefer bullet rye, but
Woodford Reserve is very good in a Manhattan.
We're on a
Obama internet is not
cooperating.
doing well.
No. So 4 whiskeys, doesn't know what cherries are, and his internet sucks.
And he uses dry vermouth.
Man, this quarantine's got to end
No,
sooner or later.
No, but this is a serious question because I thought a maraschino cherry, like when you go to Burton's and you get a Manhattan and the maraschino cherry at the bottom, it's like, it's a little darker. It's darker in color and it tastes a lot. It tastes actually like a real cherry as opposed to like the jarred cherries that you get at like Market Basket where it's all sugar and they taste completely different. What's the difference?
It could be it could be the brand. I mean, there are some, like if you go to the New Hampshire liquor store, they do sell like these marinated dark cherries. They don't look like the ones at Market Basket, the light red ones.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say.
But
the difference between the two.
It's just John. They're both like sugar cherries. They're just
They both come out of a
gourmet.
jar.
Yeah, they come out of a jar. Like so.
You can get a Spanish olive, or you can get a Spanish olive with blue cheese stuffed in it. One looks fancier. It's still a
well, maybe
Spanish
that's what
olive.
it is. Well, that's what I meant. Well, because I know the maraschino cherry that you get, like that's a really nice, and you can't find them anywhere. I've looked. They're darker in color. They're like you guys mentioned it earlier.
I just told you they're at the New Hampshire liquor store. You got to listen, or is the internet breaking up?
The New Hampshire liquor store. I gotta look for it then. I gotta look for it because that's
okay.
And usually I don't have a cherry in mind right now. Like I just whatever. That's just for garnish. That's just for whatever. But I don't. I prefer just with or without it. Doesn't really matter to me.
All right. Well, that is a good drink. I definitely think we'll have to work on what your ingredients are a little bit. But we'll have to button that up for next time when we talk. But well, hopefully you find your dark cherries that you're looking for.
Yeah, I'll go to the New Hampshire liquor store. I'll check.
Right.
I'll check that out and see if they're there. They better be the real cherries, though, Azar.
Yeah,
not those fake cherries.
Go to the bigger New Hampshire liquor stores. Don't go to like a small one. All right, so that was a perfect segue because that's actually what I wanted to talk about. Because I don't know about you guys, I'm a seasonal. Every season changes. I kind of change my drinking habits. So in the winter months, I tend to drink a lot more whiskey. I drink a lot more Guinness or stouts or darker beers, heavier beers. And then as the spring comes in, I go to lighter beers. Like Lion and Kugels are something that I really go into a lot more, those flavored beers. But I do more mixed drinks as the warm weather gets in. And that's what I wanted to recommend. If you're someone that, as the season changes, you go into the spring and summer, and you're looking for good mixers for your cocktails and real easy to make, if you're not like a bartender type person, but you want something that mixes really well, the New Hampshire liquor stores sell this line of cocktail mix from Stonewall Kitchen. Stonewall Kitchen is actually in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. It's a great place to get mixers. They sell sauces, jams, all these type of. It's a great place to go to. But the New Hampshire liquor store carries it. And there was one that my wife and I had called the pomegranate Cosmo mixer. Now, I'm not a big fan of I'm not drinking martinis, but they had some great recipes on the back of the bottles to make some great punch. So if you're looking for something different, I'm definitely, I would recommend you near the liquor store, go to their mixer section, look for something from Stonewall Kitchen. They do a great margarita mixer, so it's not heavily sugared. And like I said, I tried this pomegranate Cosmo mixer. On the back is a punch recipe with rum. It is fantastic. We ended up making like a giant pitcher of it. So that's my recommendation. We've moved from beers and beer and just straight whiskey to more punches and mixed drinks right now. And obviously the traditional vodka and club soda to get us by, to keep us hydrated. But that's what we've been doing here at my house to survive this quarantine. Let's see what our man, other than doing shrooms, what he's doing out there in Middle Earth.
So, Azar, I'm really happy to hear your diversity in taste palette, because I feel like I align myself with what you just described as well. I like to evolve my palate with the seasons. I don't really drink, like whiskey too much in the summer, although some of these new flavors are starting to make it a little bit more expansive. But like if I'm drinking scotch, it's probably a colder season. I'm drinking a darker beer. I have switched into now some of the lagers, so it's a little bit lighter. Not so much like the Pilsners where it's like right in summer and you're sweating, but like lager style beers is where I'm at right now. But I am prepping my summer drink list, and I will be sampling gin next time that we talk. I have a really nice gin that is going to be on my next recommendation. But what I started with is, because it was supposed to be almost 80 degrees today, I have Simply Raspberry Lemonade from Market Basket in Tito's. It's crisp, it's clean, it's not complicated. You can get it, anybody can do it, and it is refreshing.
Vodka lemonade?
Vodka lemonade with a raspberry or strawberry lemonade.
Okay.
They have a little bit of the flavor to it.
So
it takes the tartness out.
If you're someone that doesn't want, you don't handle the sugar too well, like you can't have that much sugar, like a sweet lemonade, Poland Spring seltzer or sparkling water, they sell a pomegranate lemonade with vodka. It's really good. It's got it's nice and light and crisp. I know a lot. I love vodka and lemonades. I love I love putting splash lemonade in my drinks. But I know some people get heartburn from too much. Like there's one person on this group that really gets a lot of heartburn when he drinks it too sweet. So
the Polar Seltzer is also a really, really good brand, flavor wise.
Yeah, they have a lot of. You know what? Actually, it's a funny brand. It's got a funny name. It's that AHA brand. AHA. Oh, yeah. Their seltzers are really good, and they have a blueberry pomegranate that I buy for my wife and I, and that one's really good with vodka. I like Stoli vodka. It's kind of like a classic vodka that I love. I know there's so many different brands now to try, but
yeah, I fell into Tito's, and it's done the trick for me.
Yeah,
Tito's,
that seems to be like the new fad right now.
Yeah, Tito's has been traditionally like a favorite among a lot of people. Have you ever tried blueberry flavored Cold Creek blueberry vodka? It's good stuff. You mix that in with a little like Simply Lemonade. You mix that in, it's unbelievable. That's my wife's favorite. Cold Creek. It's a little hard to find. Lemonade.
Now John, you like this too, because this is, you know how you like those cherries, those big chunks of cherries, like the whole dark. They have a moonshine with cherries in it. So if you like those would be great. Get that moonshine, scoop out the cherries, and put those cherries in your Manhattan.
So
that'll give you a little bit of an extra kick.
I do have to.
Blueberry moonshine is the way to go.
I have to say, I'm having like my heart is racing, because I feel like with the whole cherry thing that R3 is going to start like ripping us apart about what we. So just for the record, a maraschino cherry is a preserved sweetened cherry, typically made from a light-colored sweet cherry, such as the Royal Anne, the Rainier, or old varieties. So, when you say a maraschino cherry, it is a sweetened, preserved cherry.
Okay.
By definition. So now we get this record straight. We will not get accosted by R3.
We need to make sure we check our facts on that one, Jarvis. Yeah, no, that's true. And you know, just and I agree. And to go back to it, I mean, I know, like, I don't know, like a cherry's, to me, a cherry's a cherry. I don't know, but I'm thinking the maraschino
You just
cherry.
said, to go back to it, I know, and then said, I don't know, to follow that one up. That was a beautiful set.
That's the 4 Manhattans that I've had in me talking right there. I told you before this podcast started, I said, if I start not making any sense, there's a reason for that.
I would say it's called, I think it's Old Smoky Moonshine Cherries.
Oh,
You'll if you want some cherries, that'll give you a nice pop.
You just stoked his brain.
Yeah. He started talking about moonshine again. So I don't mind moonshine, but I think I bought a moonshine a couple of weeks ago. I think I ended up sending you a picture of it, and it was an apple pie flavored moonshine, and it was just gross.
How was that?
It was gross.
Yeah, I didn't hear good things about that one. I didn't.
No.
Yeah.
It's right.
I could have warned you on that.
It's produced right up in Manchester. I'm thinking, like a nice local, moonshine here. I think, why not just support them? It looks good. The bottle looked good. I tried my first sip. Not good. Not good at all. I don't even know what to do with the bottle now. Do I just force it down? Do I dump it down the drain? Do I try to pawn it off to one of you guys? What do I do? What do I do with it? It is not good.
Bring it to the first cookout somebody has and leave it at their house.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Or you just make hand sanitizer out of it.
There you go.
That's true.
All right. Well, I'm glad we're finding things to keep ourselves, help us survive through the quarantine, the different types of cocktails. But I like, Jarvis, that you're switching to the gins. I've been thinking about those lately. I haven't had a good... I
have a
Bombay Sapphire. And
I got a good brand, a local brand. It's gaining popularity, and R3 knows about it. I think R3 was actually the one who introduced me to it years ago, and it is still pound for pound one of the best gins I've ever had, and it on the level of Hendrick's.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about it next podcast. That sounds good. All right, let's move on to our next topic, and that's entertainment. And again, not a lot of movie going because unfortunately the movies are still shut down due to the quarantine. So we're kind of forced to find stuff deep through Netflix or whatever platform you want to for entertainment. We're getting pretty desperate here. I'm starting to find movies I didn't realize came out like 5 years ago that I'm watching just because I got nothing else, like an old Al Pacino movie from 2017 that I ended up watching that was not good at all. But anyways, I believe there was a sports-related docudrama that John loves to watch, documentary about Michael Jordan. Now, I personally have not watched it, but I know you two guys are all excited about watching the docuseries. So please be very accurate because we do have critics on the other side of this that will make sure to question anything you guys have said that isn't accurate.
Well, I will fact check you on that. This is not a docudrama. This definitely is not a docudrama. It is a full-on documentary, a 10-episode documentary on the Chicago
You wanted to say
Bulls.
Docudrama.
I did.
You wanted to say it.
I love.
You want to say it.
I love just saying docudrama. It just rolls off the tongue. But it is a 10-episode, and it's crazy that 22 years later this thing comes out. I don't know what the holdup was. I don't know if you guys heard anything on it, like why it took so long to be released, but so they had
Michael Jordan had to sign off on it. That's why he helped produce it.
He did. I heard he had the final say and everything, but I don't know why 22 years later, what took him so long to release it. But it was a camera crew that followed the Chicago Bulls around in the 1998 season. And in the documentary, they actually did a lot of flashbacks to the beginning of Michael Jordan's career and really all the key players of the Chicago Bulls leading up to that 98 season. And I got to say, it was good. I thought it was good. It was entertaining. I certainly watched a lot of basketball throughout the 90s, watched a lot of the Chicago Bulls throughout those years. But, back then, social media wasn't around. there weren't as many sports talk shows on television. It wasn't like you could just flip on any channel and somebody's talking about something. Sports talk radio was few and far between. I think it was like one station at the time talking about, at least locally anyway. But so like there wasn't as much information, like the inside information that you can hear about. So watching this documentary, you kind of get that inside information a little bit. But I got to say, I don't think it did the Chicago Bulls any favors with this documentary. I think it painted them in a pretty bad light. I think Jordan comes off as pretty arrogant. Pippen comes off as really selfish. I just think it just, I don't know. It just didn't. In fact, I think the one guy that comes off like the nicest guy in the entire group was Dennis Rodman, of all people. I don't know. Like, I remember just watching it being like, gee, I don't remember Jordan being that big of a douche back in the 90s. I was never a fan.
Is someone watching TV in the background?
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. It's not me.
Is that you in Middle Earth? Are you picking up another thing?
We might have been. Satellites coming through.
It sounds like one of you guys are in a subway and there's like someone talking in a car behind you.
Yeah, I was hearing it too. I was just kind of ignoring it. I didn't know.
Oh, sorry.
That was. But yeah, I just
watching porn.
Yeah, he probably is. Yeah, and eating at the same time, which is kind of gross.
Keep your hands
trying to
up.
break every podcast rule there is.
Keep both hands up so we can see them, please.
Yeah. When he starts taking his shirt off and he's like topless, then we'll know something's up.
Oh, nightmares for all. All right, go ahead.
But that documentary, I thought it was entertaining. I don't think it revealed anything really new that we didn't already know. I mean, maybe a couple of little things here and there. For a 10-episode season, that was a lot of episodes. 10 episodes.
All right.
Was a lot.
All right, Jarvis is ready.
All right. John, everything you said is 100% accurate. I think Jordan came off looking like a ding. Wait.
I didn't want you to agree with him.
Azar, you didn't let me finish.
All right.
Oh, there's a butt coming. There's a butt.
You always let me finish, especially when there's a but.
All right.
The one-liners from Jarvis. So off the rails.
I agree with Sodarakis. Oh, me.
Oh, it's a big reveal episode. It's the big reveal episode.
And that's who I am. That is who I am.
Okay. I agree with Meat that Jordan does not look like he's, remorseful, that he has looked back on his career and has like appreciated any moment. He just has none of that, like, appreciate what I did and kind of, look at things reflectively. Scottie Pippen, I don't have a problem with him in this. I actually didn't get the same whiny sense that most people did, but he did come off that way. I just figured whatever. When you're playing behind Jordan and you're the 170th highest paid player in the league, but the second best player in the league, I mean, something's not right. So I figured it was all justified. Rodman was probably the best character in the whole thing because you didn't know what you were going to get out of him, and it allowed us to see Carmen Electra again. You can't forget that.
Oh yeah,
she's still an absolute rocket. So here's the thing, though. What I found fascinating is that it took all of the BS, that suspension in the mid-90s, the flu game in Utah, and what it did was it brought all of those things now back to relevant conversation. Even though we're 20 years removed, social media is going to dig up all of the dirt that it can. It's going to create the stories now will finally come because this documentary brought like unprecedented storylines back to our conversation in a time where there is absolutely nothing else to talk about. I guarantee you people are hunting down the pizza place in Utah. People are going to dig through the North Dakota Barons or whoever he played baseball for. Like, there is going to be dirt dug up on the de facto suspension in the mid-90s and the fact that he was subject to a mafia hit on his father and him in that poison game. Like, all of this is going to come out from his gambling.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so glad. Like, if this didn't come out, no matter what, Jordan wanted to, So the other takeaway is I got that Jordan was just by far the best basketball player to ever play the game. And I don't think he was the best, in my opinion. I hated Jordan my whole life. I never liked him. I've never owned a pair of Jordans because I hated Michael Jordan.
Oh my God!
I was a fan of Larry Bird.
Yep.
I was a fan of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and he destroyed both of them. So their demise was his rise. So I stopped watching basketball when it was the Michael Jordan show.
Yeah,
and that's just my childhood shifted out of basketball when it was just Jordan because I got so sick and tired of it.
I liked Charles Barkley, especially after the '92 Olympics Dream Team. I was rooting for Barkley. He was MVP that following year, and then they met in the finals. And I remember sitting there watching that series, and I was watching it and being like, okay, I want the Suns to beat them so bad. And when the Bulls won, it was like. It was crushing. Like I was just like, Jordan wins it again. It's like, I wasn't a fan of Jordan at the time either.
And a great point.
One of the most entertaining players. That's amazing to say that. I mean, I didn't care for the sneakers, my family couldn't afford them anyways. But
I protested. I protested everything Jordan because my hatred for him on the court.
Yeah, that was my thing too.
But so my takeaway from The Last Dance is. Watching basketball in the late 80s into the early 90s, appreciating how just unbelievably rough and to be that good back then. I don't even want to hear LeBron James's name when you talk about the guys from the 80s and early 90s. Like LeBron James would get destroyed. And he does not have the toughness. Like these guys can't even get their little fingertips tapped on their wrist for a foul. And these guys are getting hammer locked, clothesline, body slammed. And it's like, why don't you take the ball in from,
Yeah, much more aggressive game back then.
I did like how it brought that back into light for the newer generation. So I have, looking back on it now, I'm a bigger fan of Jordan because I got to see it in real time. Even though I hated him, I'm more of a fan of him now because I see how bitchy LeBron is. And that's what we have to root for now. I'll take Jordan, who was LeBron back then, but way more tough. And that guy straight out balled. And the fact that he went to casinos every night, he was a degenerate and still performed at the highest level.
No, and don't get me wrong, too.
I love
Jordan,
it.
There's no denying how great Michael Jordan was. And I remember watching all those games and being like, is this guy, when he wants to score, he was scoring. There were times where I'd watching the game and be like, okay, here's where Michael Jordan needs to pick it up and take over the game, and he would. And it's just you don't see that anymore from basketball players. LeBron James tries sometimes and he fails, and you see a lot of other players do that. Jordan during that stretch in the '90s, it was when he wanted to take over, he took over. So there's no denying how great he was. It's just him as the person.
But the defense was just a whole different animal back then too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different.
I like him more now.
No, I can think of a player in the modern basketball that when he wants to win, can pick the whole team on his back, can just be as dynamic as Jordan was. Kyrie Irving. When he doesn't have the passion or the drive that Jordan does. But Kyrie Irving, when he wants to pick up a game, he's amazing. You can't even stop him. He's so fast. But unfortunately, that's his weakness, is that he's not like Jordan. Jordan he would cut your throat because he wants to win. He was so competitive. Kyrie Irving just plays, but man, if he just had some competitiveness about him, he would be such a great player. But again, to your point, I think there are players that do it. Just this modern basketball is so freaking, they don't have that killer instinct.
So soft.
They don't have the Larry Bird, give me the ball, I want to win the game. Right. Killer instinct. Michael Jordan was like that. I mean, there are games when you watch LeBron can carry the whole team. There was series against the Celtics where you're like, oh my God, LeBron, once LeBron was going, you can't stop him. But the problem is that it's not consistent. There's some days he turns it on.
Yeah.
And it's just mind numbing that why, and that's what keeps him from being the greatest player. It's because everybody sees that from someone like LeBron and Kyrie. And these guys will never be as elite as some of those basketball players just because they lack that killer instinct.
That's where you're right. And you said it right there, consistency. That's where Jordan really separates himself from the bunch. He was consistent. He was as consistent as it comes. And there's a reason he went 6-0 in the finals. And what was it? It was 2 2 playoff series in his entire career where it actually went to a game 7. Like they closed out the series early, and it was done.
Never in the finals. No finals ever went to game 7.
Never in the finals, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, Jordan was great. I just, watching this documentary brought back a lot of those memories, and like that little, just the way he's talking now. I mean, look, you've been retired now for, 20 years or so, and all he wants to do is just bash his opponents that challenged him. All he wants to do is, like, he was talking that in the documentary, he was talking about the 96 series against Seattle with Gary Payton, the glove. And Jarvis, if you remember that scene where he was like, oh, no, I didn't have any problem with the glove. It's like, I had other things on my mind, referring to his father passing away a year earlier, and now or 2 years earlier, and this is his first championship without his father being around. So I'm thinking, so like the whole season they win 72 games, it wasn't on his mind then. His entire playoff run, it wasn't on his mind then. When they went up 3-0 in the finals, it wasn't on his mind then. But now when Gary Payton actually guards him, now he's thinking about his father. I just think it's just, why can't he just come off and just say, yeah, he guarded me well, but at the end of the day, like, we ended up getting together as a team, played well, upped our game, and we won the series. Like, why does he have to say, it wasn't because of Gary Payton?
Yeah.
I just think he just comes off so douchey when he says that.
He does, because it's not in isolation. If it was in isolation, it would, like, if he was like, you know what, this was just the one time where, I was able to kind of compartmentalize it, but it got to me at that moment. We were 3 games up, and like, okay, you can kind of, like, the emotions get to you a little bit, and you had a chance to sweep the series, and your father and all, he could have just looked at his seat. And so I get that. But then when you think about what he did to Tony Kukoc, and then you think what he did to Dan Marley, and then you see what he did to Charles Barkley, and then what he did to Karl Malone, and it's every single one of these stories was the same thing, that like, oh no, I didn't have a bad game, or this guy was supposed to be good. I set my sights on him and destroyed him. Like, he never once had a moment of infallibility. The whole thing was to reinforce that Michael Jordan never, ever faltered, and that there was some sort of outside reason or factor that existed that caused him to stumble, but it wasn't you.
Yeah,
the entire documentary was that.
And he's got 6 championships. He's 6-0 in the finals. He's already regarded as the greatest basketball player ever. Like, why does he have to seem like he tries to defend himself? I don't know. It just comes off like he doesn't have.
I have a controversial take, and Azar, this is the juice that's going to make this. This is the juice that's going to make this podcast great. Okay.
Okay.
Here's my controversial juice. Michael Jordan releases this now because the passing of Kobe Bryant was going to elevate him in memoriam above Michael Jordan.
No way.
So
there it is.
No way.
That's my hot take.
Because
that's my hot take.
The documentary was in production for so long.
Exactly. It was in production for so long. Kobe goes. Everybody starts talking about Kobe, Michael, Kobe, LeBron. LeBron is talking about Kobe being number 1. Kobe is synonymous with throwing a paper into a basket. Anytime a person puts an object in flight, the word out of the mouth is Kobe. Every single student in middle school now does it. The kids today, their Michael Jordan is Kobe Bryant. He's a little bit older. He knows that it's dominant. They know that it's dominant player. And now with his passing, he is becoming a
that's
pariah.
You're gone.
Wait a minute. No, Azar. No, Azar. I'm with Jarvis here. I didn't think of that, but I wouldn't doubt it. Azar, did you watch The Last Dance? Did you watch any of those episodes?
No, I said I didn't. I didn't watch it. I followed it on like the news. Like I just heard all of the updates, like stuff like that.
When you watch it and like the way Michael Jordan talks and like just the things he says, I don't know. Maybe I'm just brainwashed from watching it, but I'm a little bit with Jarvis here. I think I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that that's the reason. And like that. And we talked about earlier about like competitive players. Granted, he retired a few years back, but Kobe Bryant was one of the most competitive basketball players out there. Like he had, like I hated Kobe Bryant but I could respect his competitiveness. But I remember with Kobe Bryant's career being like, oh, why can't he be more like Jordan? Like, why does he always have to like come off as so arrogant or whatever? Why can't he be more like Jordan? Now, after watching that documentary, I'm like, no, he was just like Jordan. Jordan was the same. They were like the same person. And so like I take back all of that stuff that's saying like where he should have been more like Jordan. They're just they both had that like competitive fire that they're going to win. They want to win at any cost. And if there's one player that thinks that there's going to challenge him and maybe he's going to be the guy in their way to take him down, he's going to go after him. No, like he's going to go balls out and do whatever he can to take that guy down. And then Kobe Bryant was the same way.
So from a conspiracy theory point of view, I get what you're saying. I have never listened to anything in sports radio or anything that I listen to on podcasts, even with Kobe's death, that people elevated him. He's not even in the discussion.
I disagree.
He is.
No way.
I've heard a lot of
Jordan, Bill Russell.
Personally, for
Bill
me,
Russell, Magic Johnson.
For me, he shouldn't
Kareem.
be. I don't think Kobe Bryant should be in the discussion, but
Bird.
It is.
No, it's Jordan, Russell, Bird, Magic, and then you got to throw LeBron in there, I guess, at this point. You got to give him
LeBron's is going to end up being in the top 2 or 3 in the conversation.
What about Kareem? What about
Kareem?
Will Chamberlain?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even see Kobe in the list that I have. He's not even in the top 10.
But he's
in the top 10.
Absolutely.
He's in the top 10.
He's not in the top 10. He's not.
You're not a national reporter. I'm telling you, when after Kobe's passed, what other he got a memorial. Like, you look at, there were baseball players.
Yeah, but
there was that picture from the Angels.
That was just exaggerated because of his death and with his daughter. It was a horrific thing. It was very traumatic.
I get that, and I don't mean to be insensitive to any of the happenings.
So you're basically saying his ego is so fragile.
Yes.
So you're saying
Yes.
Okay.
Watch The Last Dance. Yes. He comes off like his ego, like anything that you challenge him on, anything, Jordan is going to come back. He
is the athletic version of Donald Trump.
Wow. I just find it hard to believe that I know his ego could be fragile. Just for his ego to think that, even if his ego is fragile, who's in his ear saying that Kobe is going to be elevated higher than you? It just makes no sense to me.
It's a little far-fetched. It sounds far-fetched. No, it does. It sounds far-fetched, Jarvis, but I
believe that. That's right. It's a hot take.
Exactly. But I wouldn't doubt it. That's where I'm at. Like, it's a little bit like out there, but knowing what I know now about how Michael Jordan is,
yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. And the whole thing too. I got to say too. Like,
embrace it. This take is going to put the podcast on the map.
Well, I'm going to put it on the map.
It's already on the map.
All right. I don't know.
Not in Middle Earth. It's not.
No, I do want to just throw one more thing out there because it was one part of the documentary that I just started shaking my head. The thing with the flu game, right? And like for 22 years, we were all thinking like he had the flu. And that's why he wasn't feeling well. He comes out in this documentary and says, no, it's because I ordered pizza last night, the night before the game, and 5 delivery drivers came up and were at the door, and basically it was food poisoning. Like, he just comes up with that story out of the blue that he had food poisoning. Like, I don't. Do you buy that? I don't know. I think that's all kind of crock. Like, I think he had the flu. Like, why can't he?
Yeah.
Like 22 years later, he's gonna announce like, oh no, it was bad pizza that I ate.
Yeah, because they put arsenic on the pizza.
I mean, this is where I think like they could have easily gone back to that pizza place and did a whole investigation if that's it. But
it's never been disclosed. Jordan has never disclosed the name of the pizza place, and to this day, it was not, because that started a lot of backlash the next day. Like even on Twitter and everything, everybody was tweeting, do anybody know the name of the pizza place? Where is it where in Utah? Like they were doing like geotagging of pizza places that were around that year, and trying to figure out in proximity which one it could have been. And There is a lot of people digging into that.
I just don't buy it.
I think it was gambling related. I think it was some sort of like a loan shark money debt thing, and they showed up and sent him a message.
I think so too.
So
his father was a message too.
I just want to let you guys know, I've looked at least 3 lists, maybe 2 or 3 lists now. Kobe doesn't even come in as the top Laker in any of these lists. It's always Kareem, Magic, Shaq. But if you're my point is that when Kareem dies, you're gonna see more people elevating Kareem to the level of Jordan than you're gonna see. I think it's just the way Kobe died. I just don't buy this documentary.
I don't think Kobe Bryant's top 5, but he's definitely top 10. And that argument with the Lakers,
it's not a single list. Not a single list, John, is he in top 10. Not a single list.
But I think
Google it.
I think Asa, and this is the controversy of my take, is that I think the circumstances are going to inflate based on the memory, based on the feelings, the emotions, and the circumstances. I think it's going to inflate how appreciative people were of his contributions to the game, and it's going to inflate him up that list because people will feel too guilty to put him down. And 100%, it's all superficial. It's not real because I don't even believe Kobe Bryant was a top 10 top 5, maybe top 10, but we can go back and forth with it. Top 15 all day.
We need R3 right now because I think he would rampage. Right.
My take is that because of the unfortunate circumstances around his death and his connection to younger kids today is not – he is the Jordan of today. He's the one that is just kind of almost mythical basketball player. Jordan could do anything. We just spent an hour talking about Jordan.
So what is LeBron? All right, we can go on.
LeBron's still playing, Azar. LeBron is still playing, and LeBron defers to Kobe. Jason Tatum comes out and says, Kobe's the reason I'm playing basketball. LeBron says that Kobe's the reason I'm playing. All the current athletes are deferring to Kobe as their idol. They are the superstars of the league. All are gravitating to Kobe. That is Jordan's motivation, that Jordan is no longer the figurehead, the idol of the league, that everybody says, I want to be like Mike. That is no longer. It's I want to be Kobe.
Yeah, but that whole premise
Jordan
is the
wants
same.
it back.
That's like Joe Montana, like being bitter that people want to be more like Tom Brady.
Joe Montana is bitter. Ever listened to an interview? Joe Montana is 100% bitter, but he won't say a damn word. All he says is, well, I don't really know how you can say whose one's better than the other. He won't even say Tom has a good career.
Yeah, but that's because Tom Brady legitimately beat his career. Tom Brady legitimately beat him. That's why he's bitter.
No,
Jordan has
Joe
nothing.
Montana says, if I was playing today with free agency and blah, 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 it would be different. You can't compare. So why can we compare Jordan and I'm telling you, Azar, Jordan is that. You got to watch. See, the problem is I'm arguing with you, and you didn't even watch The Last Dance. At least Sodarakis gets
I'm arguing your premise. It has nothing to do with The Last Dance. I know he's an egomaniac.
Jordan is an egomaniac in this whole Kobe Bryant thing.
I'm
telling you what. Major egomaniac.
And you know, and
Jordan has had enough of hearing LeBron praise Kobe as his influence and mentor.
And just my final point on Kobe Bryant, there's not everybody that's going to think he's a top 10. In fact, like I didn't really like Kobe Bryant all that much throughout his career. I didn't think he was that great. I thought he was pretty weak defensively. But he was an unbelievable scorer, great athletic ability. He won 5 championships. He's got multiple MVPs. He's really, really good. Top 10, there's an argument there, and a lot of people make this case where do you put centers? Like if you put a center like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you put Shaq, you put Bill Russell, those guys like didn't have the type of athleticism as like a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. So like this, sometimes they kind of get pushed to the side and say, well, yeah, they were great in terms of popularity, influential. They were very great. They won a lot of championships. But in terms of pure basketball player, a lot of people don't.
Because R3 is fuming right now. Here's what R3 is saying. R3 is saying that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the scoring champion of the league. Nobody scored more points in the history of the league than Kareem, right? So your argument for him not being an impactful center or being a center, and he scored more points than anybody in the history of the league.
But I'm saying, Kareem, but can he pop out and hit a three-pointer? Like he can't go one-on-one with somebody.
Okay,
I'm talking about athleticism. That's what
they didn't have the three-pointer in the league until the late 80s. So Kareem was just about retired.
80.
So.
No, 1980 or 79, right around there.
Was it? I thought it was a little later.
No, it was around 1980, I think, was the year. I think it was like
So Kareem,
it was Larry Bird's first or second year in the league.
Okay.
When he introduced it.
Okay. Well, Kareem scored most of his points. I mean, he only played halfway through the 80s.
But I'm just saying,
right?
like a center
so
just
Kareem,
has a different style of
Will
playing.
Chamberlain has the record for most points in a game. But I mean, they're putting out production out of that position. It's just the game is different. It's a spread out game now, and everybody's little and hucking balls from the other end of the court. That's what they're trying to do.
I got to rein it in because we're going to run out of time and we're going on a basketball tangent here. So most people will probably shut off the podcast now because you're going on a rant here.
Not R3. R3 is loving it.
R3 just punched a hole in his wall. So we're getting ready. So thank God he's not renting from Roper because he'd have to pay to fix that. So, all right. So we got to rein it in, and we're going to table our Dark Side of the Ring. I'm going to move that for our next podcast just because we went so long on this documentary. So basically the moral of the story is if you want to understand Jarvis's take, you have to watch this documentary because you'll better understand. That's the point. So if you're angry with Jarvis's take or you don't agree with it, like I don't, I'm going to have to now watch this 10-part series so I can get a better understanding and see where Big Meat's coming from. So I'm going to try to move this now to a fantasy topic because I think we've been going long here. So I'm going to go in this segment that we want to talk. We wanted to give it a lot of time. So let's just jump into fantasy football. And it is early, but we're going into June, and in a couple of months, God willing, this stupid virus ends. Training camps will open up on time, and we'll start getting into our football season. And usually around 4th of July, I don't know about you guys, that's usually when I start getting into my fantasy juices start get going. But, because of the lockdown, we've done our draft a little early. So we're a little bit excited for this upcoming season. And I think this quarantine has heightened that. We're just looking forward to football so much.
Draft order, not draft. We didn't do our draft. We did the draft order.
Draft order. You're right. I apologize. But now that we know where we're picking, now the debate begins, who's going to be available to me at my pick and so on, which is what we're going to start here is we're already starting to see the list of the top. You can actually get all the top 100 players if you really wanted to look. But we wanted to talk about the top 20. So if you're thinking about your first 2 rounds in fantasy football, we're a 10-man league, so we focus on top 20. Some leagues are, 12-man, but most people that we know, we do a 10-man leagues. So we're going to talk about what we're seeing being published right now. Who are the top 20 players? And we're going to go through it real quickly and talk about it. And we're going to, do we agree with what we're seeing? So if you're someone that relies heavily on the magazines or websites, and what we're seeing now, are we in agreement with what's coming up? Is this the real reality of that, what people are saying? So let's just jump into it. So number one that I'm seeing consistently is CMC is the number 1 pick. So if you're the number 1 pick this year, it seems like the slam dunk lock pick is CMC. Now, I don't know about you guys. He's obviously going to be on covers. I haven't seen the magazines yet, but I know they're coming out now. He's probably going to be on every single cover. So if you're number 1, is CMC a lock for you if you were the number 1 pick?
Yes.
There you go. Thanks for the insight. Four freaking Manhattans. And I just want to let you guys know we got yes. Thanks. Such deep insight. All right.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that, Azar. Yes. He should be the number 1
no
pick.
worries. No worries about his workload.
I don't think
I have worries, but
there's always worries.
I would actually say that Elliott and Barkley are safer number 1 overall picks, but CMC is the consensus.
Now, why would you take Barkley a notch down? Because Barkley fundamentally...
It's the unknown of the Giants.
But
the Giants are not.
Yeah, but the Carolina, they've moved away from Cam Newton.
They didn't have Cam Newton at all last year anyway. I mean, CMC was putting up big numbers without Cam Newton. Cam Newton sucked last year when he was in there. And CMC was putting up numbers with or without him. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
But what was amazing with CMC when you watch those games, that quarterback was terrible. And I always, because I had him in my fantasy team, I was always worried they're just going to stack the box or whatever. But he's so good as a receiver that he's amazing. My only fear is his workload was so high.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, when a running back has one of those, even a quarterback, when they have their breakout year, their workload was high, it always seems there's going to be a regression.
Yeah, but I even argue, Azar, his breakout year was 2 years ago because I had him and I wrote him straight to the finals.
He didn't have as many touches, though, Jarvis. That's the one thing.
It was close, John. He was up there.
I remember last year, and Azar, you had him in our league, but I remember CMC every time there was a Panthers game on, it was like, what the hell? Like, they're always giving the ball to CMC, and if they're not handing the ball off to him, they're throwing to him. He's in every single play. And
he was.
And he has a lot of touches, and I can understand your point, Azar. There's historically a lot of people get a lot of carries, and they kind of dip down the following year. It'd be tough for him to match what he did last year, but I still think as the number 1 overall pick, he's the consensus pick there. In 99.9% of drafts out there, he's going number 1 overall.
So you guys are saying he's the safest pick?
Yes. He's the safest pick.
I think he's the consensus pick.
I'm just saying.
I don't want to use the word safest. I think Elliott is the safest pick, or Barkley.
Because
I think CMC will have the biggest upside, though.
Okay. Well, it's fair because I'm thinking last year Barkley was the number 1 pick, right? Remember how Barkley was the number 1 pick?
Yeah.
And, he got injured, and he is a beast. He gets a lot of touches. He doesn't have the same receiving capabilities as CMC, so there's more upside with CMC from that end. But when Barkley gets going, we saw it in the second half of the fantasy year last year. I'm just wondering, Barkley healthy, the offense is a little bit more stable. It's removed from the Eli Manning era. Is Barkley, because of his size, I mean, I'm just looking at Barkley's size when you compare him to CMC. CMC is a big guy, but Barkley's a train. Like, he's a freight train that comes running at you.
He's like this modern era of Barry Sanders. When I see him run, he reminds me of Barry Sanders. Barkley does.
CMC?
Yeah.
Barkley.
Yeah.
But he's bigger than Barry Sanders.
Way bigger.
He's got like that Jerome Bettis size.
Not
that big.
Oh, he's not that big. But he just moves like him. That is what I'm saying. Like, he's got the juke ability.
He's elusive.
Like Barry Sanders.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I if I was drafting number 1 this year, I would take CMC because of the overwhelming pressure, but I would really think that you're going to get more production out of having that 2 or 3 pick with Barkley or Elliott.
So I got to ask this, because this is like the whole point of this is to talk strategy, and we'll try to get through the top 20. But my goal is for people that listen is to think fantasy strategy on this, to learn something. Right, because that's the whole point. If you're listening.
In other words, Azar's trying to learn our strategy, Jarvis. Is that
no.
right? He's trying to figure out what our strategy is. Yeah.
None of you guys are number 1.
I know your game, Azar.
All right. Yeah. When John, your response is yes. Thank you. Your insight is helping me get better.
I'm a man of conviction. It's an emphatic yes.
If you take CMC with the premise, he did have a big workload. There's increases the risk for an injury. There could be a regression on your second pick on the wraparound when you get another pick. Do you try to aim for another high running back to kind of have insurance, or do you? No, you don't have to, because now you locked in the number 1 running back in the league. Do you need to, like, most people would either go quarterback, receiver, top tight end. They want to secure the top of everything. With someone like CMC with that slight bit of risk, do you try to go back-to-back? Would you go higher on a running back?
But, I mean, you're going from pick 1 to pick 20, and not only from pick 1 to 20, going from pick 1 to 20 and 21. So you're talking a multitude of strategy has to come into play. Is if the run of quarterbacks hasn't started yet, so if Lamar Jackson and Mahomes are there and you're at 2021, you should take one of them, because you're probably not going to have a shot at them coming back round 3 or 4 with 20 picks later. So you look at that, or you could look at Kelsey with your 20 or 21st. So you could grab the top quarterback, the top tight end, and the top running back and dominate 3 positions, or you could still stack a wide receiver or 2 running backs because of the flex. So like some leagues, our league has the flex now, so you can start 3 running backs, and the wide receivers are so deep with all those new rookies coming in, you could take flyers later on. So there are 2 strategies. You can either dominate 1 position or take the best available at 3 positions.
No, I get that. But with CMC...
Well, you just asked the question about what strategy do you take, I just answered.
If you had CMC, which strategy would you take? All you're telling me is the options. I'm saying if you had CMC as your running back, yourself, personally, none of us have a chance of getting him.
I would come back and take Lamar Jackson and Travis Kelce.
Okay, so you'd go top of each league of
spread it out.
So wait, I just want to go back to the whole the argument with or saying CMC, why take him first overall because he had a huge workload. Isn't that the case every year? Every year who we're thinking who's going to be the number 1 overall pick, it's usually a running back, right? Last year it was Barkley. He had a great year the year before. He had a lot of carries, and he got hurt this past year. He had a little bit of a down year. It's like that every year. I don't remember a player ever coming in being the number 1 overall pick and repeating what he did the year before. Maybe once or twice here or there, but it's not very common. You don't really see that very often. So Azar, to your point, you're not saying you don't think CMC belongs first overall because of the player he is. It's because historically what players have done in the past, he's had a huge workload. The fact that there's going to be more pressure on him this year to perform the way he did last year, and you just don't think he's going to be able to duplicate what he did last year, which is kind of like a fair it's a fair statement because that's how it's always been. It's always been that way.
That's what I'm saying. Is there more value? That's my point. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at is it's easy to say CMC is number 1 because look what he did. And I agree. He's a great player. There's no doubt. But historically, he is not going to – the odds of him finishing number 1 like he did last year, it's not in his favor. So is there more value? Is there someone else – like my gut went with CMC last year over certain players because I felt like there was more value and opportunity. What about someone like – let's just say, is someone like Elliott in a situation – he's coming back. There's no there's no lockout. He didn't he's not fighting for a contract. The team around him is stable and strong. Does Elliott have the potential to be the true number 1 back this year?
Absolutely. I think it's going to go Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey.
So why wouldn't you take Elliott or Barkley? So I'm just saying there is a little bit more strategy. Don't just go with the magazine and consensus because you might be surprised to find out Elliott might have more upside. He's definitely on a better team than the Panthers. Why not take Elliott number 1? Just because the magazines are telling you take CMC, I would say maybe there. And then I didn't research it yet. There might be something that I'm missing.
You are.
But
scheme.
Historically,
the new Baylor scheme, that coach they hired from Baylor is that run and shoot scheme, high flying offense, and it involves a lot of CMC in routes and out of the backfield in addition to draws and things. So they're thinking
thank you, Jarvis. That's a little bit of an insight that we needed to add. Thank you. Not just yes. That's kind of so, John. That's kind of what we're trying to see is like just as you're diving into this, there's some other things to think of other than just because everybody says this is the guy. Because I've seen a lot of people take number 1 picks, and we all know the guy in our league. He gets a number 1 pick every year, and he always chooses wrong. And I think the reason he chooses wrong is because he's someone that just sees what the consensus is without putting a lot of thought into the pick because it's too easy.
And
he doesn't have a magazine.
He doesn't have the capacity to put a lot of thought into
it. No, but
and he's wrong in the second round and in the third round. And
but my point is that there's a lot of people that make it too easy just to go with the magazine, and we're just saying they're.
But I also think too, it's like you got to look like Jarvis said it too. There's a different scheme there, whatever. But with Barkley's situation 2 years ago, is Eli Manning was there, right? It was Eli Manning as the
Yes.
quarterback. And then
Yep.
going into last year, you had Eli Manning was the starter, but everyone was like, well, it's going to be Daniel Jones at some point, and that's eventually what ended up happening. So you could see some kind of doubt there. You could say, and I even said it last year, I didn't think Barkley was going to end up performing the way he did the year before that because of that reason, and that's exactly what happened. With CMC, what is the major difference other than the scheme, which actually, from what Jarvis says, it seems to help him out. It's not like there's a new quarterback there. It doesn't seem like, did they pick anybody up? Did they lose any key players? Like, I just don't see it changing all that much. Now, granted, maybe defense is focused a little bit more on him or whatever.
They signed Robbie Anderson from the Jets, who's a speedy wide receiver, and they signed Teddy Bridgewater from the Saints to be their new quarterback.
Yeah, and again, Teddy Bridgewater.
Is he their quarterback, or is he their backup? Did they sign him for his backup?
He's going to start. He's going to start.
They paid him starter money.
Okay, so there you go.
He got $10 million a year.
It's his job to lose. I mean, if he sucks, I think they're going to go. But
there's some changes there. So I would say I could see some doubt there. I think when you start thinking about all that stuff and you're like, well, historically, like they don't perform the way they did. They don't do, there's a difference in different quarterback. You start thinking about all these different things, the wear and tear. I don't know. Like you start overthinking it and it gets in your head. And then that's when you start saying like, oh, maybe I'll take Barkley or Elliott. And then CMC actually does have a phenomenal year again. You're going to be kicking yourself.
Okay. Our three fact check moment. The Panthers signed Bridgewater to a 3-year, $63 million contract.
Ooh, wow. That much.
Yeah, that's big money.
That's starter money.
Yeah. So
3 years, $63 million.
I'm not buying into the Panthers this year. I'm out. Okay.
And we all know what's going on here.
Topic moving.
We all know what's going on here, Jarvis. Azar wants everybody knows CMC as his boy.
He wants
McCaffrey. He loves CMC.
He wants Azar, McCaffrey. He's driving down his stock.
What do you draft him? Seventh?
Drive down the stock, Azar. Drive it down.
Does he go down to 7th? I don't know. You are not going to pull the wool over my eyes,
way.
Azar.
No,
if he's there at 4,
I need a miracle for that to happen. Yeah.
This is the
well, that's a perfect segue. Thank you. Yeah. Perfect segue. No, that's great. So
now we're on number 4, right?
Yeah, because Barkley and Elliott, 2 or 3. Again, you could go. You're not going to go wrong with either one of those guys as 2 or 3. Number 4, I was surprised, and I listened to another podcast that does a lot of fantasy football because I wanted to get back into the excitement and the rhythm because I knew we were going to talk about it today. And I was curious because they had a mock draft, but they do a full, round after round draft. And I was blown away when they were saying Michael Thomas was number 4. And Yahoo ended up having him in the top 4. I think, in their league, they had Michael Thomas as number 5. But Michael Thomas that early over Kamara, Henry, Cook, blows me away. I don't see it. Am I missing something? Like, no. Why is he so high?
Because he broke a record for receptions last year.
He's high on everything that I've seen.
I just don't understand it either.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can understand why they're putting up there, but in terms of like our league, there's no way. There's no way he's going 4th. I know I'm taking 4th. I can promise you right now, I am not taking Michael Thomas 4th. And Jarvis, I don't see you taking him 5th either.
That's just not my cup of tea. Although there's nothing wrong with Michael Thomas anywhere from pick 5 down. There's nothing wrong with him because the same thing we just talked about with McCaffrey was how do you turn down the volume? So how do you turn down the volume on Thomas? He set records if he didn't set records with receptions, I think he was really close. He was in the mix for yards and receptions, I think. And I mean, they think it's only going to get better with the consistency of Drew Brees coming back. And, the team got a little better. And, they added Emmanuel Sanders. Kamara should be healthy this year. I think he was hurt last year.
He was for a lot of the season. So that's a great segue. So perfect. So Kamara is number 5 in the league, right? In the ranking of Yahoo. So perfect segue. Thank you, Jarvis. If you're expecting Michael Thomas to have that level of volume, can you expect Kamara to finish technically because he'll be the 4th running back coming off the board? Is he going to finish in the 4th? I don't see how that happens. It's got to be one or the other. I've never seen – it's very rare you see 2 studs on the same team. And that is the intriguing question. Is Thomas's success was because of Kamara's injury? Because Kamara was going into last year a receiving threat. He was the guy that was supposed to be that check down back that got a lot of reception. His injury obviously prevented that. So it was a lot of that volume Michael Thomas saw was because of Kamara's injury. So if Kamara comes back healthy, are you expecting the same volume with Thomas?
It just depends on what the condition he is after the injury. I mean, if you think like some people are never the same, I don't know what his injury details was.
It was a high ankle sprain like Barkley, and both returned by the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
They're the play, and both. If you look at their stats, they were almost back to form
by the end.
So I would say after this offseason, they're going to be both healthy. Barkley and Kamara.
Still,
I think they both had similar injuries.
Yeah. I think with Kamara, it's like I don't think he's ever had 1,000-yard rushing. Like I don't think he's ever had 1,000 yards rushing. And last year it was his moment to shine. And granted, he got injured, but still, like throw 3 total touchdowns. He had 2 of them in like one game early on in the season. He just so underperformed. I can't imagine him being 5th.
But he was
overall.
injured. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, but still. I mean, the thing is too, they love Taysom Hill so much that I've seen over the last couple of years now, even when Kamara had a good year 2 years ago, they use Taysom Hill a lot down into the red zone. They get on the 1-yard line. You look out there, you're like thinking it's Drew Brees. It's not. It's Taysom Hill. And they're doing like the RPO like thing where he's going to throw or he's going to rush it in. I think he's just going to still continue to vulture carries from him. Latavius Murray was on that team last year, and he vultured a lot of, and still is, and he vultured a lot of carries. I don't mind Kamara as like a good player to have. I think he's going to have a better year than he did last year, especially now that he's healthy. But number 5, that's high. That's way too high for me. Way too high.
Well, putting the ranking aside, I'm just making the case, just kind of segueing what Jarvis was saying. If they have a healthy Kamara, is Michael Thomas going to get the same volume? Because if you're going to take him 4th, or even take him 5th or 6th, I don't know. I just don't trust receivers anymore. I've seen too many teams get burned by drafting receivers early. It's very rare. I mean, other than like the old Randy Moss days or Megatron days where those guys consistently performed every year.
Even AB, when AB was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, AB. There's another one. Like those guys, I don't know. I just haven't seen like I've seen it one year. Like people took Julio Jones, Hopkins, and Antonio Brown, and I think Antonio Brown was the only 3 that was worthwhile out of that top 10. So, so I'm with you, John. I don't know if I see Kamara as number 5. I see Dalvin Cook. I like Derrick Henry's great, but I think Dalvin Cook has so much more upside because he's more multi-dimensional than Dalvin than Henry. And they both have the same injury risk. Like Kamara's a small guy. I think Dalvin Cook has a risk of injury. So
yeah, the one thing I hate watching football when you have a running back on your team is knowing once they get to that 3rd down and your running back goes trotting off the field and they got the 3rd down back coming in, it drives me crazy. I hate it. Yeah. I hate it. And that's Henry. Henry is never playing 3rd downs. Like if you don't see him perform in the 1st or 2nd down, it's like, all right, you lost them. You're done. I want that other dimension there. I want that running back coming in here and being the all-purpose back. I want that guy, especially if you're going to draft that high. That's why I like Henry. He was a beast last year from weeks 10 to 16, or you could say even week 17. He was the best running back in the league.
Even against the Patriots. And you weren't there at that game.
No, good one. I like how you throw that one in there.
You set me up.
Yes. But Henry was was a beast. I mean, he was just running over people. He was unbelievable. You couldn't stop the guy. 100-plus yards every game, a touchdown every game. I just think he lost an offensive lineman. Every year is different. I think R3 is good. R3 is probably pulling his hair out right now. Who's the quarterback that they just re-signed that was there last year?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yes. He was so good. He's not even memorable. Ryan Tannehill signed that huge-ass contract. He's going to come in, and he's going to fall flat on his face. He's going to suck next year. I am staying away from Derrick Henry, and I can guarantee you right now as the number 4 overall pick, I am not taking Derrick Henry. Jarvis, you can have him at number 5.
So John has single-handedly eliminated Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Derrick Henry from his number 4 overall pick.
Yes.
So now let's get to John. Now let's get to John's pick, who is ranked number 7.
Yep.
But he'll be taking number 4.
Dalvin Cook.
Chubby Chubb is the guy I'm looking at number 4.
We're not on him yet. Chubby Chubb comes up later.
That's who I am taking at number 4. That's what I'm saying. You guys think I'm going to take Dalvin Cook. I'm going Chubby Chubb.
If you take Chubb, I might get a Chubb.
See, I know Jarvis. I know you love Chubb, and I know you're rooting for him to slide to you. You're hoping I take Dalvin Cook. You'll take Chubb, and then all will be well in the world, but it's not going to happen. I'm taking Chubb.
So let's just pause because, again, this is so early in the season. So you guys are in agreement. What you see for the top 7, you agree those are the top 7 players right now?
No.
Okay.
He just said Chubb is in the top 5.
No, Chubb, he's full of shit. So
I'll tell you what. You know what? I might be full of shit. I might not be full of shit, but I will tell you this. Where I'm not full of shit is I would take Chubb before I take Michael Thomas. And right now he's ranked number 4. Absolutely, 100%.
So Chubb should be in the top 10 is what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. No, okay, top 5.
Okay, so he should be in the top 5.
Yes.
Yep.
Either 4th or 5th.
Okay.
I'm going back and forth between Dalvin Cook and Chubb. I think those two are the two guys that have the talent. They're on good offenses. They run first, second, third down. They're the goal line backs. They're run first offenses. They're young. They're usually healthy. I mean, there's no.
They both catch passes.
Yeah. Like I said, first, second, third down.
And the guard you mentioned from Tennessee that was plowing the way for Derrick Henry last year, Conklin, is now in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they drafted the 10th overall pick with an offensive lineman there. They brought in Austin Hooper. Their offense is going to be a little bit better. Another year under the belt for Mayfield to throw with OBJ and Jarvis Landry.
Better coach.
Now there is the one caveat there, right? Who else is still on the team? Kareem Hunt. That's the only caveat there. But
yeah, if Kareem Hunt wasn't on the team, I think Chubb is actually in the conversation with Barkley and Elliott.
Yeah.
Well, again, we still need a training camp. There's no guarantee Kareem Hunt stays on the team.
I hope not.
There could be some changes. So it's still early. So I'm surprised, and I'm glad we're going to that. So you're moving Chubb into the top 10. So I was shocked to see Devontae Adams. And I know why Joe Mixon is in there because of how he finished the second half of last year.
Ugh.
But I know, but again, the Bengals, but Mixon, you can't deny he had a great second half. Why is Devontae Adams up there over Joe Mixon and Chubb? I don't get the logic in that one. And I'm with you guys. Why is Nick Chubb and those guys moved down? I don't understand from a statistical point of view, like why is he there? Like, what did you see last year that made you say Devontae Adams?
I think
you saw in Rodgers.
I think they're banking on Rodgers just being like, okay, my time is ticking in Green Bay, and it's time for me to show that I'm worth money. And if I get traded or if I get cut, I'm going to be worth signing. So I think that they're banking. Devontae Adams is that high because they think Rodgers is going to come back and start hucking the ball around.
So he's not playing for a future contract with the Green Bay. Even he acknowledged that he's probably not going to finish his career with Green Bay.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more drama there that who knows what Rodgers is going to be, what kind of state of mind he's going to be in. I don't know if I would trust Devontae Adams. I would say I would rather have Tyreek Hill over Devontae Adams right now. So I don't understand why he's up there. Even I don't want to say Hopkins.
That's where I agree with you. I agree with you there, Azar. That Devontae Adams is too high. I don't understand the obsession there. I had him last year, and it wasn't not last year in our league, in another league, and it was underwhelming, and he came off of a year where he scored a ton of touchdowns, and he just wasn't this player that I envisioned last year. And I think there's a lot of messy stuff going on down in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, and for him to be the number 8 overall pick here ahead. Now I know I got my man crush on Tyreek Hill, but that aside, I can't imagine why Tyreek Hill is ranked after Devontae Adams. That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And
Unless I think he's going to get suspended.
Who is?
Oh, that's Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
Quarantine's going to really bring the worst out of it.
That's right. Wait till the recordings come out about what Tyreek Hill's been like.
He was framed. He must have been framed.
No. All right. So moving along, we don't agree Devontae Adams. We're in agreement there. Joe Mixon, 9 or 10. I mean, that's a tough one. I would rather have Chubb in the top 10.
Yep.
I'd rather have maybe Michael Thomas instead of Mixon there.
Can I just say one thing about Mixon? Last year, he was drafted at the end of the second round. I think it was like the 19th overall pick or maybe the 18th overall pick. And he had a down year. He had a down year. Now he's the 9th projected pick. Like, that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up. I understand the rookie quarterback coming in and everything, but still, I just don't see why Mixon is ranked that high.
Yeah, he actually had less touchdowns last year and less rushing yards. But I think why there's value is if you look at his attempts, he jumped from 237 attempts to 278 attempts.
That's because they needed him. That's because they needed him. They had no quarterback.
They didn't want it. They were like, well, what else can we do to keep everybody from getting hurt except hand the ball off and fall down after 3 yards?
He averaged 4.1, so it's
4 yards.
He actually was averaging 4.9 the year before. Yeah, I don't understand why he's so up there. So if you take Mixon out, we know Chubbs. If you look at that list, the next people are all receivers. Tyreek Hill, Hopkins, Julio. The next running back that they have on that list, all the way down to 14, is Aaron Jones.
Yeah, because of his 19 touchdowns last year.
So what did he finish for rushing?
I just knew he had 19 freaking touchdowns.
Let me just see.
That was a lot of touchdowns. That's all you need to know. He had 19 touchdowns. That's it.
No, I know.
Doesn't matter what his rushing yards were. He had a decent share of rushing yards. Like he was good. He was solid last year.
Yeah, right. He was a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah.
With
16 touchdowns.
16 touchdowns.
3 receiving.
Huge jump.
Or maybe he didn't have that many. 19 sounds
before R3 gets mad. I'm going to look it up before R3 kills us.
Hold on. Let me check with the producers. Oh, wait a minute, Jarvis. You are the producer. Well,
receiving. Three receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, I was right.
He did.
19.
All right, 19. All right, good.
So why is
fact check passed?
So why is Mixon going up in the rankings and Aaron Jones going backwards? Like I don't understand it. So I don't understand the logic in some of these lists.
It's a law of physics. What goes up must come down. And Aaron Jones is not going to reproduce.
It's a good way to
19 times.
That's as Jarvis, clear as my yes comment from earlier.
But even if Aaron Jones does 50% of what he did last year, he's still at almost 10 touchdowns. He's still doing better than Joe Mixon. He's definitely doing better than Julio because Julio gets 2 or 3 touchdowns a year.
And they come in one game.
I think maybe Mixon is just because they're so high on his talent, like his skill set. They everything I've read about him, everyone drools all over him. He's so good, he's so talented. And maybe that's what it is. And they don't really see the same in Aaron Jones. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really get that either.
Green Bay drafted a running back high in the second or third round, this kid A.J. Dillon. So he's going to cut into the workload. I think they drafted him in the third round. They drafted the quarterback in the first round. So nothing that the Green Bay Packers needed to make this team better, they did in the draft. They drafted all future. So they got the running back of the future, the quarterback of the future. So nobody's giving, except for except for Adams, whose stock went up. Everybody else's stock went way down, including Aaron Jones.
With that kind of production last year, I'm not sure why they're moving so completely away from him. I'd like to see.
Does Jamal Williams still there? Right? Yeah, he's still there.
He's still there.
It's going to be a crowded backfield until the training camp. I mean, it's all irrelevant right now because we have to wait to see how the training camp plays out. But anyways, I was just kind of surprised.
I would say too, like maybe it's like the mess of what's going on in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and everything, and that's why they dropped him so low. But then you look at Devontae Adams, like he's high. So like that just kind of contradicts itself. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah. See, I'd hate to be a guy that's drafting number 9 or 10 this year. I just find like the back-to-back guys, you're going to end up with either the Julios or the Hopkins, and I just you're grabbing them from their names, not because of what their real fantasy upside is. That's the problem with those guys.
And speaking of that, that segues into the next player because there is no name associated with vomit more than this guy.
Kenyon Drake?
Wait a minute. No. I'm here to defend my boy Kenyon Drake. So I like Kenyon Drake because he went to Arizona.
Yeah, he's a Cardinal now, but he was a Dolphin.
He was a Dolphin, but
always a stink.
And he blew up.
Look,
and Corey blew up.
Corey Dillon at some point not sucked for Cincinnati. He was just a Cincinnati Bengal, came to the Patriots, and he had a phenomenal year that one year. But I think Kenyon Drake, you're right, Azar, he blew up when he went to Arizona, where they were so happy with him that they got rid of David Johnson. And now Kenyon Drake is the sole running back in Arizona with DeAndre Hopkins now in the mix. I see big things for Kenyon Drake. I see a big breakout year for him this year. He's always had the talent, and every year in Miami, he was like, oh, this is the year he's going to break out. This is the year he's going to break out. They never had a quarterback. They never had a good offense around him. They never had a good offensive line.
They didn't? The Tennessee Titans think that he had a quarterback. Well, they just paid him 4 years, $100 million.
Well, we all know how that's going to – I think we're all in agreement how that's going to work out for them. I just think with Kenyon Drake, he's in a great spot right now. They trust him. They want to give him the ball. I think this is his time for him to really break out and have a big year. So at 15, I'll tell you that it's a little bit of a risk at 15. It's kind of like not an unknown, but there is not a player that's really performed that great in the past. I just think he's primed for a big year. He's due.
So those 8 games in Arizona, he had 643 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
8 touchdowns. So
that's Nick Chubb numbers right there.
he had a monster like
Absolutely.
second half of his season there.
And do you think he's going to be better or worse with DeAndre Hopkins now on the team?
Well, it depends if the looks go away because Hopkins is going to want the ball, and Kyler Murray runs the ball, so there could be some competing for the ball.
I'll take less carries and touches from Kenyon Drake if you give me more red zone opportunities for him to score more touchdowns. I'll take that all day.
So what about now? That's a good question now. So you got Kenyon Drake there. Why not take someone that, like, what about Jacobs from Oakland or Eckler? Why not take those backs that are known commodities? You've seen them full seasons with their team.
Because Eckler Eckler has got the Darren Sproles effect. He's a smaller guy. He's a scat back. He's not built for the long haul. He's not built to carry the big workload. He did last year remarkably, but he wasn't even the filler in because So I can't believe Eckler put up the numbers he did last year. Well, he's always been a serviceable backup, but he's a guy other than last year. I've always ended up picking him up midway through the year to fill in like a plug and play injury thing here and there. And like he'll have a good week and then he'll disappear when he has to. His knock was when he has to carry the load, he disappears because he's only good when he spells a bigger change of pace back.
But didn't he kind of dismiss that whole premise last year?
He did, but I think last year was a fluke for him altogether.
I think it was a little fluky too, because once Melvin Gordon came back, like really both their numbers, like Gordon didn't really do anything that great when he came back, but neither really did Eckler. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't as dominant as he was early on in the season when they were feeding him the ball. And Phillip Rivers always likes to throw to the running back. You could go back to Danny Woodhead. You could go back to all the other players that he's had. He likes to kind of dump that ball off to the running back. Who's the rookie there? Gee, R3 is gonna he's probably gonna punch a wall because of this. Who's the rookie that Herbert? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Herbert,
the quarterback.
Justin Herbert. Yeah. So
But
he's a
not
rookie.
the starter. The starter's Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor's starting.
Well, yeah, okay.
So you don't think
that could be it, but you don't know. You don't know that.
so? Let me play. Let's just the advocate for Eckler right now. So Eckler, if the whole team has basically been blown up in theory, right? You got rid of Rivers, you're bringing in Tyrod Taylor, you got rid of Melvin Gordon. Aren't you building the offense around Eckler now?
No.
Who are you building it around?
Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
Keenan Allen can't stay healthy. No way.
Hunter
Mike
Henry
Williams is a better receiver.
and the tight end.
Henry.
And the tight end that's going to be a top 7 tight end this year, Hunter Henry. I can't wait for that podcast. The tight end,
give you stats.
The tight end breakdown.
So you guys are knocking Eckler.
Yeah.
92 targets last year. 92 for 993 yards receiving. That in 8 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and he ended up having over with 500. Yeah, but Philip, it doesn't take a lot of skill to throw into the backfield, John. You don't need to be an expert quarterback to hit someone in the backfield.
No, I just think he caught a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, but that's the same argument with CMC. It was just pure volume. You're right. Like that shit quarterback was.
CMC is not the same talent that Eckler is not the same.
I understand that, but the volume of reception. If you look at some of CMC's games, it wasn't his rushing that saved his fantasy game.
No,
it was his
but
receiving.
The Chargers were down so much. Like they were a shitty team last year. That's why they have a top pick. They were down, playing from behind. Everybody went into a prevent because they were just hucking the ball, and Eckler was standing 10 yards down the field wide open because the defense was in cover 3 or quarters.
What's going to be
the whole
different?
time.
Their defense is going to suck again this year.
I mean, we don't know what's gonna end up happening there, but based on what's happened in the past, like I can't see whether it's Tyrod Taylor or Herbert. Like you don't know if they're going to dump the ball off to Eckler like Phillip Rivers did last year. I mean, maybe the scheme changes a little bit. I mean, that's just for a top, what is he, 17th overall pick here, Eckler? I mean, what did he do when Melvin Gordon came back? Like you just showed you just said the numbers of what he put up last year.
I can't. I'd have to break down his game by game, but I mean, he still finished with a solid year, even with Melvin Gordon coming back.
Yeah, but look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has in the same situation. His team sucked. He had 2 good receivers, just like they did on the Chargers. But the quarterback made different decisions. The quarterback kept hurling the ball 30 yards down the field to Godwin and Evans, and they put up huge numbers. But in San Diego or L.A., the Chargers, he chose to dump it off to the outlet, and the back got tons of yards. Look at the backs in Tampa. They sucked. Ronald Jones. Bleh.
Yeah, but Tyrod Taylor, let me argue. Tyrod Taylor came from the Bills. Who was his running back in the Bills?
Well, LaShawn McCoy.
What was LaShawn McCoy's special skill?
Right. LaDainian Tomlinson.
No, receiving out of the backfield.
Right, like LT.
Yeah, so...
But I don't think Tyrod Taylor did LaShawn McCoy any favors in his career.
No, what are you talking about? LaShawn McCoy had some great games and had great seasons with Buffalo.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that was because of Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, that was before Tyrod Taylor. I think he was decent, but he wasn't catching as many passes as you think he was towards the tail end of his Bills career there.
Well,
I mean, like I said, he could.
Hold on. I don't want R3 punching any walls, so you guys continue to talk. Let me fact check.
All right, well, so just as the sake of starting to wrap things up, you guys are both you're down on Eckler. You didn't say anything about Jacobs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was going to go back to him.
He's good.
I like Jacobs. I do like him.
Over Kenyon Drake?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I like Kenyon Drake better.
because basically in this draft, this is you guys are in this wheelhouse of choosing between the Drakes, the Jacobs, and the Eckler. So this is kind of like really relevant for you guys because after those guys, now we start getting into introducing the first tight end, like a Kelsey in there. And I know you're there, maybe Kittle is an option. Do you take a Jacobs, a Kenyon Drake, or do you take a Kittle earlier to have that number one tight end locked up? Or do you take a flyer on a Eckler or a Drake? I mean, that's a big decision right now because you have some serious talent in Kelsey and Kittle that could fill in that void right there.
There's also Mark Andrews. There's Zach Ertz. There's a few other tight ends this year than there were last year. Here's where I am with where Kittle is there. I don't mind, or not Kittle, Kelsey. I don't mind where Kelsey is, where he's being drafted right there. What I don't like is some of the players that are there drafted before him. Like I would take some other players before I would take some of those players that are listed on there. Guys like Eckler, everybody just kind of moves down a little bit. Like Mixon, like I know he's like number 9 overall there. Would I take Mixon before I take Kelsey? Yeah, I probably would take Mixon before Kelsey, but I think there's other players that are coming after that are not on the top 20 list that I'd rather take before I take Kelsey. So Kelsey, I think where that spot is, 18, it's not bad. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe 20th or 21st, because there's a few other guys on my mind here that are not listed on the top 20 that I like better than him.
So let me ask, all right, so let's just go in. Is Godwin on that list?
No.
For me, yeah.
No, not for me. Because there's another player.
I would take Godwin before Eckler.
So if you're say now you have on your team.
Maybe even Mixon.
So you got CMC and you have Barkley and Elliott, and your next round, the guys are taking, the third guy is taking, third pick overall is taking Kelsey as his number 2 pick, and then the next guy's taking, I don't see that being realistic in our league ever happening.
No way. No. Who would take Godwin before they take Mike Evans?
Right. In our league, I think that's the name, though. Yeah. I mean, Mike Evans. Godwin was the number 2 receiver behind Michael Thomas last year.
But I wonder how much that skewed because what you were saying, just because Jameis Winston was hucking that ball all over the place.
Oh, it totally skewed.
So,
I mean, if you have to draw a line in the sand to make an argument at some point, and Michael Thomas's numbers were inflated because of all this reason, right? Eckler's numbers were like, we're finding ways to justify everybody's numbers are inflated. So if the playing field is leveled, everybody's numbers were inflated because their situation was specific last year. So you just take it as face value and say that, Godwin's talent, Eckler's talent, all these guys, you just kind of rank them. I think Godwin is a better pick with Brady and what they have going on in Tampa than I do Eckler or even, let's see, Godwin's probably going to have a better year than Julio Jones.
So what about the guys that fall from grace? OBJ, Thielen.
Yeah.
I don't get Thielen. I like Thielen. Well,
I love Thielen.
I like Thielen.
Stephon Diggs now in Buffalo. I mean, who knows?
That one scares me a little bit because Josh Allen doesn't throw the ball. He just runs.
I just find it hard to believe anybody, in knowing our league, and maybe it's just credit to our league, I just don't see people messing with maybe Jacobs. Maybe, but I just don't.
There's a couple of guys that are real high on Jacobs in our league. There's a couple of guys. The same guy that's real high on Jacobs is also real high on Godwin.
So
can I go back to Eckler real quick? So I'm looking at his game log here, and the first game of the season, or I say the first few games. When did Melvin Gordon come back? Like week 5, week 8,
right?
Jeez. So he had 12 carries the first game, 17 the next, 9 the next, 18 the next, and then he drops 3, 5, 5, 3.
Maybe that's when Gordon came back then.
12, 6, 5, 9. He only had 100 rushing yards once, and that was December 8th. He had 3 total touchdowns. They were in the first 3 out of the first 4 games of the season. Now, granted, like you were saying earlier, much of his production came in the receiving end. He had 8 receiving touchdowns all scattered throughout the year. But
You're right. It was week 5 for the R3.
it was week 5, right? Yeah. So he had 3 attempts in week 5, 3 rushing attempts. I don't get, now granted, looking at his receiving targets, he had 16 targets. He caught 15 of them that game for 86 yards. He gets a lot of targets, but it's just not enough. That's like, for me, that screams James White. You know what I mean? Like, do I take James White in the first couple of rounds? Hell no. Hell no. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with Eckler. I don't understand why he's 17th overall.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even take him. I
see the same thing. I see it as Rivers looking downfield going, this isn't worth getting anybody hurt. There's Eckler, 3rd down. We're getting off the field anyway. Oh, he took it for 10 yards. All right, let's try it again. Gordon comes on the field for 1st and 2nd down. Eckler comes on, dump off. They gave it to us again. And teams were just willing to give it to him because of the talent they had at receiver.
You don't know what's going to happen with any running back because of his receiving numbers. We've proven that over the years with guys like James White, Dion Lewis, other guys that just are like basically their specialty as a 3rd down back. I want a running back that's going to get the carries. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. And last year, it didn't seem like Eckler was that guy. And maybe this year he is. Who knows? But I don't see it. I don't see him having that build to be that guy to get the bulk of the carries. That's what I'm looking for in the first couple of rounds.
Well, no, it's tough to argue that. And for the sake of time, let's just wrap it up with the last guy on this list, Miles Sanders.
Ugh.
Now,
I like him.
I heard a lot of hype on him. Like the podcast I listened to, they spoke very highly of him. John, he had 179 rushes, which is lower than a lot of, some of the elite numbers and number of attempts. But 818 yards rushing, very low touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. But he did get 63 targets in receiving, and he caught 50 of them for 500 yards. So he had over total yards, because it seems to be like the new genre now with running backs. It's that like hybrid receiving / running back. You can't just look at their rushing numbers to determine if they're great running backs. You got to factor now in their receiving yards. So almost 1,300 all-purpose yards for this guy, but low touchdowns. And he was a rookie last year, so not bad for a rookie.
And they didn't utilize him because, remember, that was all behind Jordan Howard.
Exactly. And Jordan Howard isn't there anymore, right?
He's in Miami.
He's in Miami. So now it's his offense at this point. Yep. Is it Chip Kelly?
No.
Am I right?
No, Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson. Why am I thinking Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly.
That's the old.
That's a ways. It's going way back.
That's
your credibility just shot.
Oh,
R3 thank God I corrected it. R3 would have killed us.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking Chip Kelly.
His head just exploded.
No, I'm thinking Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson will utilize him.
Yeah, I think you just better make sure you draft his handcuff.
Was he injured last year?
But Boston Scott will definitely ruin your fantasy party.
That's right. So that's why Jarvis said he likes him so much, because
I have unfinished business with Miles Sanders.
He hates Boston Scott so much that he has to love the guy competing with him, Miles Sanders.
Yep. That's it, 100%. I'm high on Miles Sanders.
I actually think there's more upside to Miles Sanders than Eckler. Like, I think he's up there more in the
totally.
But again,
do you know Miles Sanders? Now, this one I don't need to fact check. He was in college. He went to Pitt, and he replaced Saquon Barkley. So his talent was right there. He played right behind Barkley and was his next. So that's a little bit of talent there.
But he's a small guy, though. I mean, he's heavy.
I don't think
he's 5'11", 211.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but what is like most running backs are, between 5'11" and 6 feet, 215 to 220. That's like normal size.
Saquon
Barkley, 5'11", 233.
Yeah, I mean,
20 pounds.
Like Maurice Jones-Drew, tank ass.
Maurice Jones-Drew, that's a name.
I'm so mad at myself. I'm going to get an R3 tongue lashing for the Chip Kelly. I don't know why I even said it. That's terrible. Terrible. All right. So for the sake of time, I'm going to wrap this up, boys. I think this was a very long overdue podcast. We went
2 hour
long.
podcast.
Is it at 2 hours?
I think we're at 2 hours.
Oh my
All right.
God, no, it isn't. Is it really?
Yeah.
We are gonna get. People are gonna be so mad at us for running
So
this
mad.
long.
But you know what? We're all in quarantine. Got nothing else going on. So I think this is overall a good job, boys. Thank you. And
Always a
all-
pleasure.
as any closing thoughts before we wrap up this 2 hour podcast? I'm out. I'm out,
Nope.
tapped out.
I'm gonna say nope.
Yep. All right. As always, remember to follow us on YouTube. If you download us through Apple Podcasts.
Do I need to do a trivia question?
Let it go. Let it go. All right, boys. Until next time.
See you, boys.
Oh, and SoundCloud. Don't forget SoundCloud. Bye.